You're all very welcome to the Policy and Resources Committee on Wednesday, the 13th of April 2022 at 7 p.m, based here in the Town Hall in Enniskillen, with several members and also members via WebEx. Before I start the proceedings tonight, I did mention it was a paper on the 9th of March 2022 at PNR that we were issued guidelines by NILGA with regard to pre-election period of heightened political sensitivity, that's formerly known as PERDA. So what I ask is that all members tonight stick rigidly to agenda items as prescribed. With regard to the way I run the meeting, there will be no automatic muting on WebEx, although I ask people to comply with standing orders. And I will alternate between the Chamber and WebEx to give everybody an equal opportunity to get their say. But standing orders will apply, and there will be a 3-minute speaking rule for all members. So thank you. You're all welcome. Number 1 on the agenda is apologies. And first, I'm going to go to Councillor McGuire on behalf of Sinn Féin. Any apologies? All right, I'll get your mic on.
Carly, thank you, Chair. Yeah, a few apologies this evening. Councillor Barry Michael Duff, Councillor Anthony Feely, Councillor Stephen McCann, Councillor Padraig Kelly, Councillor Catherine Kelly, and Councillor Patrick Withers. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McGuire. Now I'll turn to Councillor Irvine on behalf of the Ulster Unionist Party.
Thank you very much, Chair. Councillor Baird will be running late, so he's going to come into the meeting late. And Councillor Warrington, I'm just not sure whether he can get in remotely or not. He may or may not be in.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Irvine. Councillor Robinson on behalf of DUP.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Stevenson, we're running a wee bit late, but no apologies from anybody else. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Robinson. And Councillor Mary Garrity on behalf of the SDLP.
Yeah, evening, Chair. Thank you. One apology, Councillor Adam Gannon.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Now I'll ask her any apologies for the single member parties or independents. Have we anybody coming on this? Councillor Emmet McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, apologies for both Councillor Keenan and Councillor O'Coffey. I think neither of them are able to attend tonight due to work commitments. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Emmet. Okay. I'm seeing no other hands, so we can take it that that's the complete apologies at this stage. The next item on the agenda, item 2, is to sign minutes and confidentialness of previous meeting held on the 9th of March 2022. I have actually signed those at the start of the meeting here. Item 3 on the agenda is declarations of interest. And prior to going out to members, I will declare an interest. It's 2.8 of agenda item 11, which is confidential, but I will remain in the chair, but not participate. I'll now go out to members with regard to any declarations of interest. Hey. Mike's open. Oh, sorry, Councillor McAleer. Sorry, I didn't see you there, Emmet.
You're quite all right, Chair. No problem. 2 declarations here. 5.3, the Rural Affairs Subcommittee as a member of that subcommittee, and 6.1, the report on the consultations. The 1.3, the draft response to the EANI Strategic Area Plan and Special Education Area Plan as an employee of Southwest College, which is referenced just in the consultation response a number of times. I would like to speak on the other consultation that's involved as part of that, but I'll not speak or participate nothing to do with that particular one, if that's all right, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Emmet. No other declarations I'm seeing from anywhere. Alison? Alison, your mic's not...
Sorry, Chair, just item 11, please, confidential staff matters.
Okay, thank you, Alison. As no further declarations of interest, so we'll now go on to the matters arising from the meeting of Wednesday, the 9th of March, 2022. And we'll go through page 1, page 2, page 3, and I think Alison 5.2.
Mr. Chair, just to reference to members the correspondence that's been received from the Education Authority regarding the Council's concerns relating to home to school transport and wider issues regarding school transportation.
Okay, members, you've seen the correspondence. Councillor Emmet McAleer.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think just very briefly on point 5.1 on page 2, just to send, I suppose, solidarity, congratulations and well wishes to the workers who maintained the occupation up at the Regina Shelley house. But I'll get on to this item in front of us. There's a couple of concerns just that I'd like to raise, and I suppose, like to pay tribute to, I think it was both Councillors Green and Councillor O'Coffey who had spoken previously on this and followed up on this particular issue, because I think the issue maintains or persists that there is a serious staffing crisis here, which ultimately means that there are school children without school buses at certain times of the year. Just in relation to the response, and it is quite, in terms of some of the letters that we get back, it is quite a detailed response. So I have to thank the EA for that. But there's 3 particular points that I'd like to raise off the back of this. I think the first one refers to the deferring the vehicles with alternative fuels until year 5 of the plan, which obviously we're in the midst of a climate crisis, and there would be concerns surrounding that. The second issue being the work which has been undertaken with Belfast City Council was carried out pre-COVID. Obviously, we've had an additional crisis since then. I'm wondering, does the EA believe that this pre-COVID action has actually sorted out the crisis? And I would propose that we actually respond to them in kind to pose that question to them. And thirdly, there's reference to ads carried on buses in terms of recruitment and recruiting drivers for the future. But the reports raised, and the problem with those reports was that the text on them was so small as to make them illegible. So the question, I suppose, remains, were they actually serious about recruiting, or was it some sort of a token gesture that they could say they'd carried it out, but that it didn't actually result in anything? I think from speaking to a number of drivers in recent weeks, there is a belief there that ads on buses are a realistic proposal, but they do need to be legible. So we'd like to maybe go back to the EA again on that particular issue and see if that's something that could be resolved in future weeks, because obviously we do have a crisis in terms of the impact of the lack of recruitment and the lack of maintaining staff here. So I'd just like to raise those as a couple of proposals.
I take it that, Emmet, you're happy to propose noting of the
I was
correspondence.
just about to say, Chair, yeah, happy to propose the note in the correspondence as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Bert Wilson.
Yes, Chair. Well, I'll second that, but just a comment that over the last, just about a week ago, I had a report. Children out of 2 weeks were left 3 evenings, one family without a way home, and that was 3 miles. And one of the was a young girl of 5 and a young boy of 9, and they weren't very pleased about it, and I think they mentioned it to the driver, and he said that they may contact me, and that were more or less told that if they contacted any representative, that they might have no bus at all. So I didn't think that was very whatever way you like to put it, but if it wasn't a threat, it was something very funny anyway. But it's not good enough, just, and for say the back at that time a week ago, or 10 days, the evenings were very wet and cold. So I just
Okay.
someone I wouldn't be very happy with.
Okay, then you're happy to second the noting, and
Yeah.
you're seconding the proposal from Councillor McAleer about returning a letter for those questions to be
Yeah.
answered. That's fine, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I have no other members coming in, so I take it everybody is in agreement. If you're not in agreement, could you please notify me now to the proposals? That's passed. Okay, members, we're moving on now. That was 5.2. The remainder of page 3. Page 4. Page 5. I think, Alison, you're looking in here.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Item 6.1, it's just to advise members that we have today received confirmation from the Western Trust that they will not be in a position to attend the Health and Social Care Subcommittee meeting, which is scheduled for the 27th of April due to the period of pre-election sensitivity. It's unfortunate given the election date has been known for some time and the Trust had previously committed to the date. So, Chair, we can proceed with the meeting, but it really will just be the adoption of the minutes and routine matters. And we are liaising with the Trust to get their availability as soon as practicable after the election. So just really by way of noting.
Okay, thanks, Alison. Can I get somebody in to note the correspondence, proposed noting? Councillor Deehan, do you wish to speak, or is this to propose to note?
Chair, yes, I propose to note the correspondence. I think it is unfortunate. My view would be that we should proceed with our meeting and seek to liaise with the Western Trust as soon as possible.
Okay.
We have a number of very important issues that need to be discussed, but I think that we should proceed with our meeting as scheduled.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Deehan. Councillor Mary Garty.
Thank you, Chair. I'll second the noting, and it is a bit disappointing, and hopefully as soon as the election is over, that this meeting can be prioritised ASAP as indicated by the members' importance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Members of Councillor Diane Armstrong looking in.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, just for some clarity, please. We had submitted some questions to present to the meeting. Will those questions, could they be responded to in written form, or is that something that can't be dealt with? Maybe the Chief Executive could advise, please. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I'm going to hand back to Alison.
Yes, Chair. My understanding, Councillor, is they won't be dealt with, and they will instead be dealt with when the Trust meets with the Council at the, I suppose, at the next meeting that they're available. In the event that we do receive any written communications from the Trust, we would certainly share them at the meeting, but I wouldn't anticipate it.
Thank you, Alison.
I'm going to come to Councillor McGuire shortly, but you've heard the proposal and second that we note the correspondence. Anybody in disagreement with that, would they let me know now? Okay, so that's agreed. Now I'll go to Councillor Tommy McGuire.
Gurmagad Kerley, thanks, Chair, and similar to the other colleagues, I have to express our disappointment. It seems to be, in recent times, more difficult to get a response or to engage. After forming the subcommittee, I thought it would have formalised and that it would have enhanced the meeting, but it seems to be that there's a continual reason not to attend and insufficient answers. And as I say, even not to respond to pre-written questions is totally unacceptable, I believe. So I think we should express our disappointment in the strong possible terms. It's really not good enough given the amount of issues there are out there in our local area.
Okay, Councillor McGuire, you're proposing that we express our disappointment. I think it's only fair to come back to Councillor Deehan. Do you wish to second that, Councillor Deehan?
Yes, I'll second that, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Errol Thompson.
Thank you, Chair. And likewise, I support Councillor McGuire's proposal, second by Councillor Deehan. It's just to make people aware, some of us have another meeting on that day at 2 o'clock, and I'm sure our Chief Executive's well aware of that one. So it's just to bear that one in mind as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Thompson. I think that's all the speakers. Just to get it passed, the the proposal by Councillor Maguire, seconded by Councillor Deehan, that we write back about our disappointment to the way this has been dealt with. All in agreement? Okay, passed. Thank you. So that is, we're following all on page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11. Celine, I think you have something on page 11.
Chair, I wanted to highlight that to date we have received returns on the related parties note from 22 members and that 18 remain outstanding, and I would ask if these could be returned please by this week, and as advised we're happy to provide help and support to complete those as well. So that's in connection with the Council's year-end reporting requirements. Thank you.
Okay, members, you've heard it from Celine. Hopefully those that are still outstanding can get in as requested. Councillor Maguire, hold on. Sorry, I forget.
Margaret, just on the back of Celine's report there, could I ask and request that maybe a speedy reminder be sent to the 18 outstanding members, just to,
I think it's a good idea.
It pings up on their notifications.
Okay. I don't think we need a formal proposal there, Celine, but we'll just take that as for granted. Okay, thanks, Celine, on that. We continue with page 11, page 12, page 13, page 14. Alison?
Chair, thank you. Just to refer members to the correspondence received from Paul Scully MP, and this is in relation to the measures that are required for putting in place an additional bank or public holiday. It doesn't really detail fully the consultations, but it just references the Banking and Financial Dealings Act and then the Prime Ministerial approval of any changes that would be required.
Okay, Councillor Curry.
Yeah, I don't think he answered what we had written back to him for a second time for at all. We asked for clarification regarding all stages associated with the consideration and making of a new bank holiday, and specifically, I'm just quoting directly from the letter, the steps needed to initiate a public consultation and the formal decision-making process. And he's given us a very, very brief response there with absolutely no information on what the steps would be, how you would make your case for an additional public holiday. And I do think, you know, this came around because of, you know, St. Bridget's Day, which is going to be celebrated in the south. That's already began, I believe. I think this year was the first public holiday. And just to have that extended, just as St. Patrick's Day is on an all-Ireland basis. And I think it's also important in terms of women. Bridget, and for those who might not identify with St. Bridget, but the earlier Breach, you know, it's around that springtime. It's around very much identifying with women, that life bringing forth spring, everything's about to bust into life. And, you know, when you look around and think about the patron saints, even in Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and England, there's a serious lack of women around. So I think it would be something actually very positive, a very positive campaign to get behind, and just, as I say, extending that on an all-Ireland basis.
So you're proposing to note the correspondence,
I
but also
propose that we
with the
note there,
clarification
and
which was in
that we
the-
write back for clarification, and maybe just to look at if there is any other steps we can take proactively as a council, maybe to engage with other councils or get others on board with this campaign.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Emmet McAleer.
Yeah, Chair, happy enough to second that. I think whether it's worth kind of explicitly stating how do we as a council go about looking to bring this in as a bank holiday, whether that would be worth including, but happy enough to support the proposal, second the proposal, Chair. Thank you. And I'll Second, the noting of the
The
letter.
noting, okay, thank you. AnnMarie Fitzgerald, I think you're next.
Yes, Chair. Yes, just want to also acknowledge that for the proposer and seconder, I think it's a very good proposal. I feel that we do need more female role models, and St. Bridget's Day is just as symbolic to many of us as St. Patrick's Day is. It's a well-known public holiday, something which we've known to make St. Bridget's crosses as part of our culture and as part of our traditions. So yes, I'm with agreement that we go forward as a council and hopefully to get it just get it issued as a public holiday. So sorry for the interruption there.
Okay, thank you, Councillor AnnMarie Fitzgerald. AnnMarie Donnelly, I think you're now looking in, please.
Yes, thanks, Chair. Just very short, really. I just wonder, is this something that should be brought to the attention of the shared island unit when the South are bringing this new public holiday in place? This could be something that we could work together to try and, you know, roll this public holiday out across the island of Ireland. So I think it might be worth if Siobhan was of a mind to maybe slightly amend the response to include the shared island unit, to bring it to their attention that this is something that should be considered for the North. Thank you.
Siobhan's nodding her head in a positive response there, so we will include that. Just checking with the seconder that you're happy to include that, Councillor McAleer?
That's 100%, Chair. Yeah, no problem.
Okay, thank you. Members, you've heard it proposed and seconded that we write back clarifying the questions that were asked in the first place, and also with regard to the shared island, as was the addition there. All those in agreement? Anybody against? Please notify now. That's passed. Thank you. So we'll continue on with page 14, page 15, page 16, and finally page 17. Okay, that's matters arising completed. The next issue, members, that we're going to come to is item 5, which is Chief Executive Directorate reports, the first of which is 5.1, to consider report and proposed arrangements for the annual meeting to be held on the 1st of June 2022. That's paper A. And hand over to Alison.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, really this just sets out the arrangements for the meeting on the 1st of June, and the early sections of the report deal with the nominations of positions of responsibility which have been appended in the matrix, the procedures around the appointment of members to committees and the appointments to other bodies. Just to advise, Chair, the appointments to other bodies list will obviously be reviewed formally in advance of the annual meeting, just to make sure it's fully reflective of the current list of bodies and appointments to which members have nominated. The only other element then, Chair, that I just did wish to comment on was in relation to the meeting arrangements themselves. You'll recall that we had agreed to review the wider public health picture in advance of the annual meeting, and while we still have some time for that, I think it's unlikely that there'll be any formal change to the guidance. Obviously, things may change immediately after the election, but there's no particular optimism that that will be the case. In terms of councils, there is really no consistent position, and most councils are generally operating hybrid arrangements, at least in the short term. So I suppose, Chair, at this point, and in consideration of the annual meeting, it would be to take members' views as to the preferred approach with regard to future council and committee meetings. And we've previously discussed the benefits of continuing all subcommittee, working group and informal meetings on a fully remote basis. So as I say, I know we do have the rest of this month and the month of May. We may get no further clarity, and it's whether you are content to proceed on the hybrid basis with the social distancing as it stands, or if you would wish to make any alternate proposals.
Okay, so you're looking views, Chief Executive, rather than decisions as such. So that's fine. The first one looking in is Councillor McAleer.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, happy enough to, I suppose, propose kind of what's recommended there, just working through the points. I think happy to propose that we confirm that the council proceeds on a full member basis for the 4 committees that are concerned, that the delegation of council powers to each of the stand committees is continued up until the end of the current mandate. I think as well the council and committee members or committee meetings, continue to operate on a hybrid basis, with members being accommodated in the chamber at the 2 metre social distancing, as noted in the report, and the remainder of members attending via WebEx until there is a change to the public health guidance. I think it's noted in 2.5.2 that at the time of finalising this report, there'd been no change to public health guidance, and there's no indication that this will be reviewed in the near future, just as the chief executive was confirming there as well. And it acknowledges that levels of COVID transmission in the community remain high, and I think that's noted again in a later report as we work our way through the agenda in terms of staff absences and staff sicknesses. I would also like to, I'm happy enough to support the recommendations 1 to 4 that are made in the paper. Recommendation 5, and I'm happy enough to support, but it'll be up to the party nominating officers and planning committee members to fulfil that recommendation. But I would like to raise an additional proposal, and thankfully it's not one that applies tonight, but when we're dealing with these...
Could you speed it up?
Yeah, last line here, Chair, really just in relation to the lock function on microphones for those that are attending via WebEx, I'd actually like to propose that that's fully removed. I don't think it's been a success.
I'm sorry, that decision has been made. In fact, it was my original proposal at a meeting, which was seconded, and that was at the start of the year, so that's now within 6 months. Am I correct?
Yes, Chair, sorry, that's correct, and it is now at the individual chair's discretion.
So that was my own proposal to committee or to the council. So obviously we can't rediscuss that until 6 months after the original decision by council.
Chair, just there was a request to bring back a report as to where the lock actually came from, and I don't think that's ever been actioned. So we never really got where it was instructed from or who agreed to it, because it just was.
Okay, Emmet, I'll bring in the chief executive to clarify that point.
No, Chair, we have actually clarified this now on a number of occasions in relation to what's being described as the locking function. When WebEx and the hybrid meetings first started, there was no facility on the WebEx system for the central controlling of microphones akin to what's in place in the chamber. As the system developed, and there were various iterations of it, that system now applies. So we merely are rolling out the same system on WebEx as it has always been the case in the chamber. And that has been clarified previously, Chair.
Okay, Councillor McAleer. That's those points clarified. So you're proposing that we accept the recommendations as they are. That's 1 to 5. Anybody else to come in on this? Councillor Deehan.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Alison, for your report and for the work that you've put into the preparation of these arrangements. I wish to second the recommendation. My own view is that we should continue with hybrid meetings. As I've stated on a number of occasions, we're still dealing with COVID, and I do think that it is important to continue to observe the social distancing. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Irvine.
Sorry, yes, I just wanted clarity from a proposer, Councillor McAleer, in reference to 7.3. I just wasn't sure if he'd completely elaborated the proposals for future council and committee meetings.
Chair, Councillor McAleer did propose that we would continue on a hybrid basis at 2 metre social distancing until the guidance changes.
It's okay, I thought that was just a statement. No, it's just for clarity, I just wanted to know that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. No other members are going to come in, so we've had it proposed by Councillor McAleer and seconded by Councillor Deehan that we accept the recommendations as outlined in 7 of the report. All in agreement? Any dissenters, please notify me now. Okay, that's passed. Thank you. We move on now to 5.2 to consider a miscellaneous report of the Chief Executive, Paper B. And again, I'll ask for Alison, please.
Yes, Chair, and just I appreciate this paper was only uploaded this morning, but it was waiting for some information from colleagues in Donegal. So I'll just comment briefly on each of the key issues for decision. Firstly, in terms of our collaborative working with Donegal County Council, we've been meeting now for just, well, almost a year, and our most recent meeting was on the 2nd of March. We have been discussing arrangements for a joint work plan, Chair, and it was proposed that we would schedule a workshop, ideally on a face-to-face basis, subject again to guidance, before our next formal meeting, which is scheduled for the 1st of June. And this would really be for the work plan to be refined. So just to advise, the provisional date for that workshop will be the afternoon of Friday, the 13th of May. It seems to fit in with both council schedules, and we're just confirming whether or not we can proceed with that, as I say, in person or virtually. We've also received details, Chair, from the Shared Island Unit regarding the Local Authority Development Funding Scheme. The details are set out in the report, but in summary, this is a seeding fund which will support the development of significant capital projects over the next number of years. It'll be roughly an 18-month to 2-year programme, and the applications will come from the southern border councils. So in this case, Donegal, for example. We are also discussing the potential of this fund with our other neighbouring local authorities, including Cavan, Leitrim and Monaghan, regarding potential joint projects. Next item, Chair, is just by way of positive update in terms of Gillygooley Primary School, and to note that the school have advised us that they've received a 100% vote in favour at their parental ballot for transformation, and they have requested that the council would issue further correspondence to the department referencing the ballot and reiterating our support for the school to be enabled really to transform to a controlled integrated primary school. Yesterday, we had the meeting informally with the PSNI, which had followed on from the council's various correspondences around primarily escort duties and associated with explosives. There were 2 main actions that came from that meeting. The first is that the council would submit a Freedom of Information request seeking an itemised breakdown of all costs, including those relating to escort duties associated with policing operations at the Dalradian site. And secondly, that we would make representations to the Department of Justice seeking a change to the legislation to ensure that costs associated with escort and similar duties are met by the companies requiring the services rather than the public purse. And finally, Chair, just for information, is the updated Consolidated Councillor Allowances Circular for information, and we'll update the Constitution accordingly.
Okay, thank you, Chief Executive. The first speaker, Councillor Siobhan Curry.
Gurmagad Kerley and Gurmagad Alison for that report. There's quite a bit in there. Just first of all, just to propose recommendations, Chair, and just to say, just particularly around the Donegal County Council and the cross-border working group that's been set up there. I just want to thank Alison for the commitment that she's shown with that. I think we've had a few sessions where it has very much been getting to know you, and I'm really looking forward actually to the proposed workshop on the 13th of May. And I think there's a lot of opportunity here. I think it's really exciting for us to be able to work together, and long may it continue. Just in terms of point 5 there, the receipt of the circular on the allowance increases there, Chair, I'd just like to propose that we don't actually accept the increase to the basic councillors' allowance. I take on board we've already addressed the dependents' carers' allowance on the special responsibility, just given that there are increased demands on members with the special responsibilities and obviously the associated costs. But just the basic councillors' allowance is public money that ratepayers are paying us, and we just don't feel that it's appropriate at this time. So if we could raise that proposal, please, Chair. Gurmagad, thank you.
So you're recommending the proposals 1 to 4. You're noting obviously 5, but proposing not accepting the increase to basic councillors' salary.
That's right, Chair.
Correct. That's fine. Next speaker is Councillor Deehan.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Alison, for your report. A lot of work has gone into this report, And I thank Alison for that, and particularly for the rapidity with which she has brought these items to our notice. I'm happy to second the recommendations in this report, Chair. I wanted to make mention, first of all, of the correspondence regarding Gilly Primary School. I welcome that correspondence. I want to propose that we do correspond with the department and the Education Authority regarding the outcome of this ballot, and welcome the fact that parents do support the transformation of this primary school to a controlled integrated status. Secondly, then, in respect of item 2.31, which is following on from our informal meeting with the PSNI on Tuesday past, I found this to be a very informative meeting. And as the Chief Executive says, a number of proposals came forward from that meeting. And I'm pleased to support these recommendations. Just for clarification, yes, indeed, as is stated in the report, we do seek a freedom of information request for an itemised breakdown of all costs associated with escort duties and policing operations at Dalradian. I think that's important, but also I in particular had requested similar information by way of a comparator in respect of the quarrying industry as opposed to the mining industry. It is our belief, my belief certainly, and I know it's shared by many, that the scale, the frequency of operations and the duration of the operations proposed by Dalradian will impose a very significant burden on the taxpayer, and that is why the current arrangements must be changed by legislation. And that's
okay. We've had several discussions about this, but you were at the informal meeting as I was, and there were certain actions, and the Chief Executive have outlined those. So
yes,
you're in agreement with those?
I am, but just to add in the comparator, freedom of information for the quarrying industry. And
That's
thank
lovely.
Alison for that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go back to the original proposer, Councillor Curry. Are you quite happy that that's added in? Sorry. Sorry, Siobhan.
Sorry, Chair. Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. The next one is Councillor McGuire.
If I could just come in to second Councillor Corey's proposal about the basic allowance.
Well, that's actually seconded by Councillor Deehan. So
I do apologise, I didn't hear that.
That's my understanding. Councillor Deehan, can I just confirm that?
Yes, that's correct, Chair, because I think that we should lead by example in these austere times.
Okay, I understood that. So you're happy enough, Councillor McGuire? Okay, yeah. Next one in is Councillor Emmet McAleer.
Thanks, Chair. Could I ask a question just before I start speaking here? Is that just the basic allowance, the special responsibility? Is that councillors who have a particular post, that the proposal is just to cut the basic allowance but not offer an increase?
That's correct. That's the proposal. Yes.
Well, I would need to have that extended to those with the special responsibility, because there's.
So you're going contrary and making a separate proposal?
Yeah, I'm going to make that a separate proposal, because there's a difference there of a couple of £100 in terms of the basic allowance and a couple of £1,000 for the special responsibility. So I won't be able to support that.
You've asked your question. Do you want to speak about these recommendations?
Yes, please, Chair. Just to support in relation to 2.3 and the meeting with the informal meeting with the PSNI in relation to the security cost or the provision of security for the gold mining. I would take a different view from the usefulness of that meeting to the previous speaker, Councillor Deehan, although I do commend her. I believe it was her that brought the proposals, and I would be supportive of the proposals that have actually come out of the meeting. I think the two standard answers we seemed to get was either that they had they were legally obliged to provide free security, which again is a legal opinion that they were given. They didn't answer my question as to who provided or who obtained that legal opinion. Was it from MPA or some of the mining lobbying interests that provided that, where it originated from? And the other answer being that they couldn't estimate costs fully because the detail wasn't known, despite the detail being publicly available in the various planning applications that have been submitted. So I wasn't impressed with it. Was disappointed with the level of understanding in relation to the subject that seemed to be displayed by the officers present. They seemed intent on continually towing that lobbyist line that mining equates to quarrying, and I think the addition that Dr. Deehan has alluded to tonight is definitely a welcome one. I would be supportive of that. But everything else was unknown, and I think there was one other thing just in relation to a comment from the Dalradian chief executive made during a speech in Colorado in September 2016.
Sorry, I don't want to go into this. Is about the recommendations as there are, and there's nothing referencing Dalradian here. It's with regard to that meeting in the police. So I'm not accepting any further comment.
Chair, it makes specific reference to Dalradian, does it not? The proposal from Councillor Deehan.
The Councillor Deehan is more or less saying from the informal meeting with PSNI about the representations. So I'm not going into any further discussion on this matter.
2.3.
Listen, I am telling you now, I am not going into further discussion.
Chair, it says it in black
I'm
and white.
going to have to lock you out if you start to contravene my directions. Please, Emmet.
So, Chair, I'm not allowed to speak on this.
So what you are proposing, sorry, Emmet, just do not overspeak with me.
Chair, I'm trying to get clarification.
I will give you clarification. You are making a proposal, contrary to what has been proposed, that also the SRAs are limited, and you are making a point with regard to the item, let me see, 4, with regard to your views on the chief officer that was there yesterday and their legal opinion. Now, I've heard no further proposals than that. If you wish, you have a very short time to make any further to your proposals.
Chair, yes, Chair, my proposal has been made. I was using the 3 minutes allocated to speak on the issue, but I'm not sure what the opposition or what the problem is with me speaking on what has been brought
Okay, well, certainly I've given you plenty of time, Emmet, and I'm closing you off with that on this particular topic. Okay, the next speaker is Councillor Matthew Bell.
Firstly, thanks, Alison, for your report. There's lots of different things in here. I believe Councillor Deehan made a proposal around correspondence around Gilly School, and if that's so, I'll quite happily second that. And I just want to say I'm very happy that this council maintains very supportive of Gilly Primary School. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, that's actually already proposed, but thank you for that comment. Councillor AnnMarie Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm just coming in the same vein as my colleague, Councillor Bell there. More than happy to be supportive of the ballot taken by the parents at Gilly School. That's great news. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have no more speakers. So what way I have it is I have a proposal and a seconder from Councillor Curry and seconded by Councillor Deehan. And that is the recommendations as they are, except for recommendation 5, which limits councillors' basic allowance to remain as it is without an increase, but the SRA to increase for the remainder. Is that correct, Councillor Curry? I just confirm.
Sure. Well, I think all of the recommendations stand because the 5th one is just noting.
I understand
but,
that.
Just to make the proposal that the basic allowance increase is not accepted.
The increase, you're talking
of the
about
basic allowance.
on the basic
Yeah.
allowance. That's
Thank you.
what I was clarifying. Yeah, thank you. And this was seconded by Councillor Deehan. I have had one dissenter so far, Councillor McAleer. Are there any further dissenters to that? That is passed. Councillor McAleer, there's been no seconder to you, and it seems unanimous with regard to Councillor Curry's a proposal. So we'll move on from that topic. The next item on the agenda, just checking here. The Rural Affairs Subcommittee, 533, to consider minutes of Rural Affairs Subcommittee meeting held on the 10th of March 2022, paper C. And I would be looking for Councillor Seamus Green, the chair of that committee, to ratify and recommend any actions contained therein. Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I would propose the ratification of them minutes. There was some great work done in that committee, so yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Okay, do we have a seconder for those proposal? Rural Affairs Subcommittee. Do we have a seconder? Oh, sorry, Councillor Curry. Okay, members, you've heard it proposed and seconded that we ratify the minutes and the recommendations contained therein. Anybody in disagreement, please notify now. Okay, that's passed. The next item on the agenda were corporate services and governance directorate reports. And the first of those is item 6.1 to consider report on consultations. Prior to handing over to Celine, that's paper D. There was an email forwarded out on the 5th of April with regard to the two main consultations for members to make responses early. And I'll hand over to Celine. But what I will be doing is, as we take each of those two consultations, I'll be looking at proposer and a seconder or any discussion. So, Celine, the first one we're going to deal with is the draft response consultation on the draft investment strategy for Northern Ireland. Celine.
Thank you, Chair. So the draft response for the consultation on the draft investment strategy for Northern Ireland is set out at Appendix 1, and you can see in the summary report at 2.1.2 really a summary of the key aspects of our response, which has included comment on challenges facing infrastructure in our district, both in the short and medium term, identified investment objectives, decarbonisation, strengthening our essential services, enhancing communities and places, and there is specific mention then of the, I suppose, the historical underinvestment in the district, and particularly in rural areas, on issues such as connectivity, broadband, roads, and mobile signal, etc. This consultation, like others, is drafted after taking soundings both from council officers and where again from councillors where they make those known. It's made in line with policy principles and tries to reflect the discussion in the chamber here, and hopefully that has been achieved.
Okay, thanks, Celine. And Councillor Bert Wilson.
Yes, Chair. Well, this document contains a lot of very useful if it were carried out, and I would propose, yes, that we agree to this. Especially what says broadband, mobile signals, roads are something that I think we need to be all highlighting, because there's nobody looking or doing anything for them. They've been ignored. But yes, I would propose the adoption of this document.
Okay,
and
thanks.
I do stress that the roads need to be, they're not doing anything for them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wilson. The next person to come in here is Councillor Josephine DeeHan.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks to Celine and her team for bringing this consultation response forward. I think it has captured very well the various debates on these issues that we've had in the chamber over the last number of years. One point that I have made, I'm not sure if it has been captured, I don't think it has, is the cost of electric vehicles. I think I raised this previously. even hybrid vehicles, let alone fully electric vehicles, are absolutely too expensive and quite beyond the affordability for, I would say, virtually all families. And I think that there must be government intervention, whether in the form of subsidies to the manufacturers or grants to buyers, to enable this important initiative to be delivered by 2030 and 2035. So I would like that included in the response. Chair, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Wilson, are you quite happy to incorporate that from Councillor Beattie?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Next speaker I have is Councillor Emmet McAleer.
Thanks, Chair. Obviously there's parts of this that I would like strengthen, but overall I think it is a very good response, and I would send my commendations to the team behind it. There's page 6. There's a paragraph in particular that jumps out at me that Fermanagh and Omagh District Council fully supports the need for investment in enhancing and protecting the natural environment as one of the most unspoilt and biodiverse areas in the region, and the first council to publish a sustainable development and climate change strategy. The council calls on the executive to ensure that areas such as areas of outstanding natural beauty and the geopark are protected from industrial activity, which would place these valuable landscapes at risk. Protection and conservation of our natural environment is paramount, and mitigation measures should be included at the design stage. So it's a promising one. I prefer to work against mitigation measures.
Sorry, hold on. Are you reading from the document?
Sorry, that quote was from the response, just?
Yeah.
That particular but yeah, no, just to say that is something that obviously the council endorses and needs to support and does support. I think it would err away from mitigation to prevention altogether, but overall, I'm fairly happy with the response, just to say I'm supporting it. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, for clarity, Chair, yes, Councillor McAleer, I don't believe is proposing anything new. He has read an extract from the middle of page 6 of the proposed response.
Sorry, through the Chair, I thought I'd said that whenever I was started. Sorry, yeah, that's quite correct, Celine. Yeah, through the Chair.
You're probably rushing so quick to get you in your 3 minutes, Emmet, but that's good to get clarification. Thank you.
Chair, maybe the only point I would make around this is about, I suppose, the proposals for the investment in Northern Ireland in infrastructure, and that I'm not entirely sure that we would be able to, that the point around the cost of electric vehicles and what subventions would be most appropriate in the context of this document. We will certainly review to see whether it can be included here, but if not, it's a point that can be highlighted perhaps in other consultations that are more specific to climate change. This is more about the roads and the infrastructure as opposed to subvention for vehicles.
Is there not a chance of a small paragraph?
We'll certainly do our best to incorporate that, yes. Perhaps in the context of providing for the infrastructure for electric vehicles. We could note the expense. Thank you.
Just a short paragraph. Okay, members, we've heard it proposed by Councillor Burke-Wilson, seconded by Councillor Deehan, that we accept this report with the slight alteration as stated. Any objectors, please notify now. Okay, that proposal is passed. We move on to the second response, and that is EANI Strategic Area Plan and Special Education Area Plan. Again, we forwarded this out on the 5th of April. I'll hand over to Celine.
So, Chair, this again is another important consultation that is ongoing at the moment. And in drafting this response, council officers have liaised with a number of external stakeholders, including the Fermanagh Learning Community, Fermanagh Trust, a number of school employees, as well as Arvalee School in Omagh and the council's 2 access advisory groups. our response then, which is more generic, you'll note, rather than the previous one, which posed specific questions. But we have made response commenting on the role of the Shared Education Act and on the strategic plans, mission statements, the key themes, the need for continued cooperation, collaboration and sharing at both primary and post-primary level, the need to maximise resources, and then just the concerns about the sustainability of schools in rural areas where they are being benchmarked against targets and pupil numbers that are unrealistic in terms of being achieved. So that is a summary of the key points that have been highlighted in the Council's response to this consultation.
Okay, thanks, Celine. You've had for some time there, members. I'm looking for a proposer and a seconder. Do I have a proposer for the consultation document? Councillor Curry, and seconded by Councillor Garrity. Councillor AnnMarie Donnelly, approached you a bit late there. Councillor Paul Robinson.
Just coming in to second it.
Okay, sorry, we have it proposed and seconded here. Members, we've had it proposed and seconded. Any dissenters from that, please indicate now. Hold your hands up still. I take it you're not dissenting. That's fine. So that's passed. Okay, Celine, so that is the two consultations as such that have been forwarded out. If you would now wish to go through the other issues on this report.
Thank you, Chair. The other issues that are provided for information is the current batch of consultations that we wish to draw to your attention, as well as then submissions that have already been made. Some of these will come through other committees because they're most appropriate for discussion there. And I suppose the one that would highlight that will be brought back to a further meeting here is the review of urgent and emergency care services in Northern Ireland, which again is a very topical concern for members here. So really the recommendations then at 9.2 asks you to note the information presented on those various consultations and our proposed actions to take those forward.
Okay, thanks, Celine. Do I have a proposer to note? And second, Councillor Garrity is proposer to note. Councillor Deehan.
Proposed, Chair.
You're seconding, are you, Councillor Deehan?
I'm seconding, yes, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Members, you've heard it proposed and seconded that we note these reports. Any dissent, please notify now. Okay, that's passed. The next member on the agenda is 6.2 to consider a report on financial matters. That's paper E. And again, that's Celine.
Thank you, Chair. Information provided on management accounts during the year, and then your approval sought for a variation on the reporting requirements around the management accounts to facilitate the end of year reporting and then reporting over the course of 22-23. And then information provided on additional funding from the Department for Communities in relation to COVID support, and also then clarification and sums around the derating grant and the transferred functions grant for 22-23. Two items for approval: the management accounts and the arrangements for financial reporting for the 12 months to March 22 and also the 22-23 year, and then to note the information on the additional funding and the grant allocations for 22-23.
Okay, thanks, Celine. Councillor AnnMarie Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair, and just happy to propose the recommendations in 9.1 and also to welcome the additional funding from the Department of Communities and the derating grant. That's excellent news, so thank you, Chair.
And you're also in 9.2 noting?
Yes, happy to note you.
That's lovely, thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Irvine.
Yeah, happy to second, and well done, Celine, and all in your department, and obviously to Chief Executive as well.
Could you speak a wee bit louder, Councillor Irvine, or speak
Sorry,
directly to the
I'm
mic?
seconding, but I'm congratulating Celine and her department.
Okay, thank you. Members, you've heard it proposed and seconded. Anybody dissenting from that, please notify me now. Okay, that's passed. Thank you. The next item is 6.3, to consider report on the audit panel meeting held on the 22nd of March 2022, paper F. And I ask Celine just to come in if there's any relevant background. I'll be looking for Councillor Green to propose with regard to audit panel.
Chair, this was the fourth meeting of the audit panel in the 21-22 year, and it took place on the 22nd of March. At 2.2, members will see the range of items that were discussed and agreed, and the minutes are attached at Appendix 1. At 2.3, because we are at the end of the year, there is a review of the audit panel effectiveness. This is important because the full council body does rely on the audit panel to give assurance around some aspects of the operations and the governance of the council. This is done with reference to a self-assessment checklist, which has 5 key good practice principles, and those are set out at 2.3.1. And it is after consideration of those by the audit panel and its independent members, they are recommending an assurance, an overall assurance of satisfactory and complete for the year. No areas of significant concern noted, and the principles all being met. So with that in mind, it is the recommendation for the adoption of the minutes of the audit panel meeting of the 22nd of March, and to note the audit panel's review of its effectiveness for the 21-22 year.
Okay, thank you, Celine. Councillor Green, for you to set the minutes if available. I'm not picking up Councillor Green there, so I'll be looking for somebody else from the audit panel. Councillor Baird, Donnelly, or Bernice Swift, if they could. Councillor Baird?
Yes, thank you, Chair, and I hope you noted my apology for the late arrival. Yes, happy to propose. Thank you.
Okay, and we're going to have to get some other member to second. I don't think we've any of the rest of the audit panel here. Councillor McGuire, are you quite happy to second? No, you can't. So we can't get a second, Rollison. So we'll hold them, but we'll have to hold these over to the next meeting. Councillor Curry, are you looking in there?
Just a question, Chair. Does it actually need to be somebody from the audit committee?
I've been told by Alison, yes.
Because of the report.
Perhaps we could have, but
yeah.
So I think what we've got to do is bring that back to our next meeting, and hopefully there'll be enough members of the audit panel in attendance. Okay, so we've just passed on that, Celine. Just been advised if Councillor Green came back to second or another member, well then we could get that passed tonight. So I'll reserve judgment on that until later on in the meeting. Okay, so I'll put that to the side. Members, the next item on the agenda, 6.4, to consider report on procurement and tenders update. That's paper G. And again, Celine, please.
Chair, there are 2 items for decision making in this. The first is around a tender award, and that is detailed at 2.1, and then 2.2 sets out 2 tenders to be issued, and that's seeking your approval to progress to tender on those. The remaining items then are for information and relate to tenders that have been awarded in line with delegated authority for 5 items as detailed at 3.1. So the recommendations are to approve the award of the tender, and then also to approve the issue of tenders for bid writing services and grass cutting services, and then to note the tenders awarded as detailed in the report.
Okay, thanks, Celine. First speaker, Councillor Irvine.
Thank you, Chair. Happy to propose the recommendations at 9192, and just to comment on at least the pre-tender estimates are starting to sort of come closer to the mark. Those one up, but the others down. It's good to see. I think that is a sign of sort of getting closer together, especially in times of difficult cost fluctuations. Thank you very much, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Garrity.
Thank you, Chair. I wish to second the recommendations as outlined in the report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Garrity. That's all the speakers here. Sorry, Councillor Emmet McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. No, I think we'd spoken as previously that the grass cutting service was previously, I think it was £100,000, now £80,000. I don't think we should be outsourcing this and looking to pay somebody £80,000 to cut grass, and again, the percentage of grass possibly that is council owned and not council owned. So I'll be dissenting from this particular one. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, that's fine. Members, you've heard it proposed by Councillor Irvine and seconded by Councillor Garrity. Apart from one dissent there, all agreed? Councillor Green, are you dissenting, or is it you coming in the other matter? Councillor Green?
Hello, Chair. No, sorry, I just had to go to the door there.
Sorry, we're getting
If you want
interference.
to deal with that after that, I'm happy enough to propose.
Oh, okay, I'll come back to you,
apologies for that.
Seamus. You're not dissenting from that, so I'll come back to you directly afterwards. So the only dissenter we have then was Councillor McAleer. Okay, so that is passed. I will return now to Councillor Green, and what this was paper item agenda 6.3, and it was recommend the Council adopts the minutes of the Audit Panel meeting of the 22nd of March 2022 and notes the Audit Panel's review of effectiveness for 2021-22. In your absence, Seamus, I got Councillor Baird to propose accepting it. Do you second, Seamus?
Yeah, I'm happy enough. Yeah, thanks.
That's lovely. Thank you, Seamus. That's that matter dealt with then. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is reports for information. It's corporate services and governance directorate reports. And 7.1 is to note report on staff matters, and that is paper H. Celine?
Thank you, Chair. Just a few highlights in this, just to draw members' attention to. First of all, for the last 2 years now, we have been providing you with a COVID update, given some, I suppose, perspective on the staff issues and the numbers of absence and the mitigations and what we have been doing to try and support staff. I suppose it is another sign of the new normal that we're proposing that this would be the last of these reports, and that they would be reported by exception going forward, just where there is anything of particular note. The bereavement leave policy, Council has already confirmed its position. We've now completed the consultation with the trade unions, who have accepted the position very gladly, and that is now policy is now finalised. And then included here, and as an attachment at Appendix 2, is the Council's annual fair employment monitoring return, with a summary of the figures provided at paragraph 2.3 of the information there. The other items there are really just for information through to 2.6, and all of the recommendations are for noting the information provided.
Okay, thank you, Celine. Members, you've heard what's been said. I'm going to bring in Councillor McAleer, first speaker.
Thank you, Chair. No, happy enough to propose the note. I think I had referenced it earlier, but yeah, the figures given in relation to staff absence at 2.1.1 or staff sickness in terms of testing positive is quite worrying. So obviously that's something we should be minded about and keep an eye on. Just in relation to the improved or the revised bereavement leave policy, I would definitely welcome that, and I think it's a very positive move to be taken as an employer. Again, I would also welcome the council contribution to the Fermanagh Council of Trade Unions upgrade of the Workers' Memorial at the Roundel, and look forward to the official unveiling ceremony on Saturday the 23rd April. So happy enough to propose as noted, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, Emmet, thank you. Councillor AnnMarie Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair, and happy to note the recommendations.
Okay, that's
Thank you.
lovely. Thank you. Members, we've heard it proposed and seconded. Councillor Garrity, you're looking in.
Yeah, and thanks, Chair. That was seconded there, so I'm content enough with that. But just to say, I had reason to visit the Cllr depot this week, and just to say, I have to put it in record, their courteous and professional manner in which I was received was really over and beyond, and I just think it's great to have workers like that. I know we have the same in the Gortrush depot, but I was really taken back by it with their helpfulness, so I thought it only fair to put that on record tonight, Chair, just when we were talking
Okay.
staff matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Garrity. I'm sure you're doing well with the people concerned. Members, you've heard it proposed and seconded. We accept the recommendations. Anybody dissenting from that, please notify me now. Okay, that's passed. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is 7.2 to note report of the Director of Corporate Services and Governance, paper I, and that's again Celine.
Chair, just one item here, which is for information and available through the hyperlinked sections in this report, a copy of the Northern Ireland Human Rights Commission strategic plan and the action that they're proposing to take over the 22 to 25 year period. Just
Okay,
for noting.
Thank you. Councillor Irvine.
Thank you very much, Chair. Happy to propose noting the report. So detailed,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, have we a seconder? Councillor Paul Robinson.
Seconded.
Okay, thank you, members. So you've heard it proposed and seconded, or noting. Any dissent from that? Okay, it's passed. We now move on to item 8, which is correspondence. I'll hand over to Alison.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, we've 3 items of correspondence. The first is a request from the Western Drugs and Alcohol Coordination Team to give a virtual presentation to elected members to raise awareness about the PHA drugs and alcohol service provision. I'm assuming this is something that members would wish to receive, Chair, and if so, we would make the necessary arrangements.
Okay, Councillor Irvine.
Sorry, it was an oversight on my part, Chair. I should declare an interest in this item. I'll not withdraw, but
just declared. Okay, thank you. Next speaker, Councillor Deehan.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I'd like to formally propose that we accept that offer from the Public Health Agency to present on the alcohol and drug service provision in our district. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Deehan.
Propose to note the correspondence as well, Chair. Thank you.
That's fine, thank you. Councillor Emmet McAleer is next up.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, happy enough to second both the correspondence and the invite to the Western Trust team to come in and speak to us. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Emmet. Councillor Bell.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just kind of want to add my supportive comments for the proposal for this group to come in and meet us. This morning in the Neighbourhood Renewal Health Subcommittee, we met with PIPS, which is a suicide prevention group, and they really hammered home the point of drug and alcohol abuse and its effects on poor mental health. So I think this came very timely, and it'd be great to have more information on it. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bell. Councillor AnnMarie Fitzgerald.
Yes, thanks, Chair. I also want to be recognised to be supportive of this initiative. Alcohol and drugs, there's really no age limit to this, and it's got to be a real problem in our society, affecting young and old, male and female, and it does have an impact on suicide rates and such domestic abuse and such a wide range of different issues. So yeah, I welcome the chance of hopefully I'll be able to attend the meeting and so on. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, AnnMarie. Okay, members, you've heard it proposed and seconded. We note and invite them in. So any dissenters from that, please notify me now. AnnMarie, if your hand up.
Sorry, Chair, I'm trying to get it down here. Sorry.
Take it down, please. Notice Centre, so that's passed. Okay. Next item, Alison.
Yes, Chair, the next item, there's two items of correspondence, but they're both really on the same issue. The first is an acknowledgement, and this is from the HSE in relation to the Council's correspondence regarding the alignment of the employment criteria really north and south of the border to facilitate a greater pool of available GPs. So I'd say the first letter dated the 5th of April is really an acknowledgement, and the second is advising that amendment to legislation and legal frameworks lie outside of the remit of the HSE, and as the query relates to services in another jurisdiction, the HSE is unable to comment further on the matter.
Okay, members, I'm looking for a proposer to note. Seconder, any proposers to note? Councillor Paul Robinson.
Propose to note.
Thank you, Paul. And seconder, Councillor Errol Thompson. Errol?
Second the noting, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Members, we've heard the letters and we have proposed to note all in agreement. Otherwise, signify aye. Okay, that's passed. Anything else, Alison, there in correspondence?
Sure, we do have one item of other as well, dated the 12th of April, and this is from the Department of Education, the Director of COVID Management, and this is in relation to the Council's complaint regarding the Minister's previous response and the handling of COVID matters by the Department.
Okay, members, we've had an opportunity to read the letter. Just for noting. Councillor McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate you letting me in. As the person that raised this initially, I was speaking to the director earlier today. I think there has been a wee bit of cross wires in relation to this. But just to advise what my proposal was, and if there was confusion about it, but I'd like to restate it now. That complaint or raising a complaint is the language that's used in the Act in relation to it, the Education and Libraries Order. And the reason that I wanted to raise a complaint is that it's noted in it wasn't so much a complaint about all three particulars noted down in the letter. It was specifically to do with the school uniform policy and looking at a review about school uniform policy guidance and guidelines, because it's noted that if a complaint is made to by any person or any body, that the department is satisfied the relevant authority has acted or is proposing to act unreasonably with respect to the exercise of any power conferred, that they may, under the education orders, take direct actions or give direct actions in relation to the outcome. So the response that we had initially got from the Minister for Education was about advising and encouraging, but she actually has, or whoever is going to fulfill that role in the next assembly, has the power to actually lay down the law in relation to what the guidance on school uniform policy should be. And the use of language to raise a complaint was to try and encourage the minister to do so. Because, as I said the last night when I was speaking, if a council was raising a complaint across the board about the implementation of this particular policy, given the COVID guidelines, given the cold weather, etc., that would then trigger some action to be taken. Obviously, and hopefully we're moving into the warmer months, but I would like to propose that we actually go back to, if not the minister, at least the department, to explain that we're raising a complaint in relation to the Education Libraries Northern Ireland Order 2003 and Section 18 about child protection measures, that we would like to raise a complaint and see if that can be redressed or dealt with. Really to deal with abuse, which, as I explained the last night, isn't confined to sexual abuse, but it abuse causing physical or mental harm to a child. So I'd like to re-raise that as a proposal. Happy enough to note the correspondence received, but that was the intention of my proposal last night. Thank you, Chair.
So I'm trying to, we raised a complaint, they have investigated the complaint, and you're willing to note the outcome. Is that correct, first and foremost?
That's correct, Chair, yeah.
Okay, and so you are also going on to look for a further letter?
Yes.
Is that correct?
So this is, the further letter isn't in relation to raising a complaint about the three items noted. It's in compliance with this legislation to raise a complaint specifically in terms of the overall policy about uniform guidance, that the minister has a position there or a responsibility there to actually implement some sort of action as opposed to just
Okay.
offering advice or offering guidance. Thank you, Chair.
With regard to that, are you saying that we send that letter right away, or do we wait until there is a new minister or executive or whatever installment? What is your proposal exactly?
Well,
Right
Chair,
away?
I'm happy to take advice on that. I would be keen to send it off priority, but if there's no serving minister at present, it may be one that could be held until the new minister is there. I'm happy to take guidance from.
Okay, I'll bring the chief executive in. Thank you.
Chair, just on that latter point, so the ministers actually remain until they are replaced, one of the more recent legislative provisions, and so while they're unlikely to make any policy announcements or big decisions in advance now of the election, they are still in post and will remain until they are formally replaced.
So what's your advice, Chief Executive?
Well, in terms of Councillor, my interpretation of what Councillor McAleer is saying, it's really broadening it out, but using the language in the department's own guidance, and it's really to encourage the minister for her to apply the pressure that she can to schools for them to enable the uniform policy to be adopted much more flexibly. So that would be something in the minister's own competence, and we could write to the minister accordingly. That's my interpretation of what Councillor McAleer is saying, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Alison. Do we have a seconder then for this, Councillor Deehan?
Thank you, Chair. Well, I would second the noting of the correspondence and also second Councillor McAleer's proposal, which I think is an important area, and I would be keen that that correspondence would issue without delay. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so you're seconding the noting and you're seconding Councillor McAleer's proposal.
Yes,
That's
Chair.
fine, thank you. That's all the speakers we have. So we've heard it proposed and seconded for noting. And also proposed that we rewrite back with what was included by the chief executive there. Anybody in disagreement with that? Okay, that's passed. Okay, thank you, members. Any other correspondence, Alison? I have not been notified of any urgent and relevant business. So we are about to go into confidential into committee. Can I have a proposer and a seconder? Councillor Elliott, Councillor McGuire. So we will move into committee with committee, all agreed. I'll wait until the recording goes back on again. Again, a little wave from the back of the room will suffice. Okay, members, we're back out of committee. Chief Executive, could you summarise what took place in committee, please?
Thank you, Chair. Just to confirm that while in committee, members considered the matters arising from the confidential business of the meeting held on the 9th of March 2022, and there was one matter arising related to procurement issues, and the committee also considered a report on confidential staff matters and noted the various updates provided, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Chief Executive, can I have a proposer and seconder? Councillor Irvine, Councillor Elliott. All members agree to that summary? Okay, that's agreed. Members, we have actually come to the end of our committee. It's unbelievable. I've got a committee over in 2 hours. I thank all members for the cooperation, and I thank the officers as well. Especially, I think it is a good idea to put those bigger consultations out in advance so that members can get a good check beforehand and add in comments or whatever. So I think that's very useful, and I compliment the officers for their work in that regard. So good night, all, and we'll see you back at the council meeting next month. And safe travel home for those concerned. Thank you.
All the best, Chair.